Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Enriching Brazil Infoday, dedicated to the innovation support ecosystems in Europe and the Americas. We'll share with you some insights on incubation and internationalization programs in Europe, Brazil, USA, and Costa Rica. I am Chiara Davalli, and I'm project manager at EBN, the European Business Innovation Center Network, a proud member and partner of Enriching Brazil. I won't be alone, don't worry, it won't be a one-woman show, but together with me are indeed experts from the countries I was mentioning to you, and they will contribute with their insights. So as you can see, I will count on the expertise of Professor Adriana Faria, Luca Maini, Carola Medina Oremuno, Marie Longser, and Laura Monasterio. Before we start, I would ask you a couple of questions. I know it sounds a bit odd to ask questions to the audience, but this is a way for us to understand who's on the other side of the screen. And on the other side, it's also a way to train us a little bit on how polls work on this platform, the GoToWebinar platform, because during this event, we'll be launching some polls to ask you some questions about the ecosystems we'll be exploring today with our experts. So to see what is our knowledge about these areas and their innovation and incubation ecosystems. So let's start with a couple of easy questions to get to know each other. The first question is, where are you from? So I would give you 10 seconds to let me know where are you attending from this session. So 3, 2, 1, and I close the poll. I see that half of the attendees are from Brazil, then 33% from Europe, 10% from Costa Rica, and other countries then. Great. The second question for you, it's about what type of organizations are you representing or you are working for? It's business organization support, governmental organization, are you an entrepreneur working for a company, a research center, or other type of organizations? 3, 2, 1. Okay, I see that most of you are incubators, so coming from incubators or tech parks. Good. Then a lot of entrepreneurs, online companies, and then other. Okay, great. Small warm up and just understand who's with us today. So nice to meet you. Before I tell you a few words about Enriching Brazil, the program that is hosting and organizing this event today, just I would share with you a couple of very practical and technical information. First is that this session is recorded, so we are recording it, and recordings of the session will be made available then on Enriching Brazil website, together with the presentations of our speakers. Second information is that as we are quite a few on this event today, we can allow everybody we can't allow you all to speak. But we would still ask you and invite you to interact with us by writing down comments and questions in the chat functionality that you have. You can find again on the GoToWebinar platform. Just write it down. I'll keep an eye on it, and I will pose the questions or comments to our speakers during the event. If possible, we'll take 1 or 2 questions after each presentation, and then we'll have for sure a Q&A session at the very end of the event. I'm done with the technical logistic information. So let me tell you a little bit about us, Enriching Brazil. So Enriching Brazil Center is the spin-off of an EC-funded project called EUBIC, that is still ongoing and is funded by the European Commission to facilitate and enable innovation, business and research collaboration between Europe and Brazil. So ENRICH in Brazil, the center, is an association of world-class partners that provides state-of-the-art innovation policy, research and making in Europe and Brazil, that connects key players and innovators between Europe and Brazil, and again, connect solutions and build long-lasting partnerships between Europe and Brazil. The association counts today quite a good number of members from both Europe and Brazil, of course, some of us being the founding members. I mean, those that were also part of the, are also part of the project, but then more organizations joined our community. Among these organizations, the so-called soft landing hubs, I'll come back to this in a while, just to tell you that these are accredited organizations by ENRICH in Brazil that are tech parks, incubators, able to provide soft landing services to European companies interested in exploring the Brazilian market. Technopark from University of Viçosa is one of them, and today is going to tell us a bit more about what they do and about the Brazilian tech park ecosystem. What do we do in practical terms? So we provide executive education and trainings, high-level networking, solutions and funding matchmaking, and soft landing services. In even more practical terms, what does it mean? What do we do for EU and Brazilian actors interested in international cooperation opportunities? First of all, we have an open call for solutions to 3 innovation challenges in 3 different sectors. So these challenges are challenges that European non-for-profit organizations are facing today, mainly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we launched before summer, the European summer, a call for challenges. We received more than 30 challenges, and we selected these 3, one on nature, tourism and digitalization, another one on health and digitalization, and the third one on sustainable development and digitalization, to look for solutions coming from European providers. So European companies are invited to check these challenges and submit the solutions online before the 9th, by the 9th of October. Each challenge will see a winner, basically, that will get a prize of 10,000 euro to implement the concept and the solution together with, indeed, the challenge owner, so the Brazilian organization. Again, in the GoToWebinar platform, there is a section called Hands Out. I uploaded there detailed descriptions about each challenge and about the call guidelines. If you need any information, just contact me. Another initiative we launched in August is the podcast, the ENRICH in Brazil Innovation Station. Every week or so, we release podcasts that basically see experts from Brazil and Europe speaking about key policies, tools, instruments relevant to research, innovation, and of course, international collaboration. Yesterday, we kickstarted our virtual EU Roundtable series. So every time we invite representatives of EU member states to get in conversation with ENRICH in Brazil partners to tell and to exchange about practical recommendations on how to actually implement international collaboration with Brazil. We started yesterday. Recordings are available. It's a very interesting activity. For companies, we'll be running in mid-October our Go Global online academy. Unfortunately for you, it's already fully booked, but still I think it's worth to mention because it's a 4-day training on aimed at providing entrepreneurs with tools and methodologies for international expansion. We have also a matchmaking platform that for the moment, till the end of the year, is for European and Brazilian organizations only. But as of 2021, actually ENRICH in Brazil will enlarge its scope to other Latin American and Caribbean countries. So all of you are basically invited to join this matchmaking platform, where we publish relevant collaboration opportunities, and where, of course, you can connect with peers and potential partners. Last but not least, a twinning program we are launching basically today for the soft landing hubs of ENRICH in Brazil, the 5 organizations I was mentioning before, that will be matched with peers in Europe, coming either from the EBN network or the ISP network. The objective is to let these organizations exchange about internationalization program and scout collaboration opportunities, not only for the incubators or tech parks themselves, but also for the companies. Again, if interested, I'm here to provide you with further information. I stop here because actually this is meant to be a very short introduction, and I would now introduce you the first talk and the first speaker. As I was telling you, one of our soft landing hubs, the Technopark, the Parco Tecnológico de Viçosa, is going to, and specifically Professor Adriana Ferreira Faria, is going to present us some insights from a study she recently did on science and technology parks ecosystem in Brazil. Adriana is a professor at the Federal University of Viçosa since 2007, and basically since then she has been involved in the activities of the Technopark, and she was involved first as startup leader, and then indeed she's the director and now executive director since 2011. So before giving her the floor, as I was telling you, I would like to launch a first round of polls specifically focusing on the Brazilian context. So let's see how much do we know about the Brazilian ecosystem. Okay. First question, how many technology parks are in operation? In operation are there in Brazil? 35, 45, or 55? I give you 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, most of you said 55. Adriana, take notes. Then 28 and 28% said 35 and 45, but the majority said 55. Second question about the Brazilian ecosystem. We run now all the questions, and then the answers will be provided by our experts during their talks, okay? Okay, second poll, ready? Go. How many incubators are there in Brazil? 257, 320, 367. 5 more seconds. And I close the poll. So majority, 40%, says 320. Then 367 is the answer of 35% of our audience. Good. Let's move to the third and, we move to the third and last question about the Brazilian ecosystem, sorry. Ready? Go. So how many science and technology parks are in the world? Less than 500, between 500 and 1,000, or more than 1,000? Give you 5 more seconds to answer. 3, 2, 1, and I close the poll with 50% of the audience saying more than 1,000. Did I close it? Yeah. Good. Okay, so I think that it's now up to Adriana, Professor Adriana Faria, to tell us more about the Brazilian ecosystem and also to give us some answers probably. So let me, sorry. Yes. What is it? Here. Okay. Adriana, the floor is yours. I unmute you and I mute myself.
So thank you, Chiara, and good morning for everyone from Brazil. I'm very glad to be here with you to talk about our ecosystem in Brazil, and I hope to help you to understand better this subject in Brazil. I'm Adriana, I'm a professor in the Federal University of Viçosa. I'm Executive Director of Technology Park in Viçosa, a proud soft rub land from ENRICH. And so can go, Chiara. About our presentation today, we are going to talk about a background of the Science and Technology Park, the objective of our study, the methodology that we have used, the major results, and something about the conclusions and the acknowledgements. So the innovation, it's very hard. It's not so easy. So for us, innovation is product in the market. So you can go, Chiara. And so for that, by definition, so see if innovation is the product in the market, so by definition, who made the innovation are the companies. But the other side, the raw material to innovation is the knowledge, so the importance of the university. So for us here, the way to innovation, it's the triple helix model, where we have the relationship between the university, industry, and the government. And why triple helix model? Why it's different from the other models in the relationship? It's because two major reasons for us. The first one, the protagonism and the importance of the university. We are talking about an entrepreneurial university, which is responsible for to provide the team, the persons, and the technology. By the other side, the industry and the government with the policies and the investment, the public investment. And the two reasons about the triple helix model, it's the intermediate organization paper. It's very important you have someone responsible to add and to help in this relationship. As an example of intermediate organizations, so we have the technology parks, the incubators, the transfer technology office. So we are going to talk a little about the technology parks. So despite the dissemination of the technology parks in the world, the mission of the technology parks, and if they are a success or failure, sometimes in the literature, there is not a consensus about that. So it's important to monitor and assess the performance of the technology park over the time, because the most part of them are financed by the public money. You can go, Chiara. And so it's important. We cannot compare different technology parks because they are different. They are in different conditions, what we call here boundary conditions, and we have a lot of factors that affect the success of the technology park. I like so much the link dictum from Professor Albert Link of the University of North Carolina. If you have seen one park, you see one park. We cannot compare. That it's very important. We cannot say this park it's a success or this park it's a failure, and all this practice it serves everyone. If we to understand the success or failure, we have a lot of measures for that. So in this context, you can go, Chiara. In this context, we are very interested to monitoring the performance of science technology park in Brazil. The many students that we have in the literature, they are case or multiple case studies. They don't consider the heterogeneity, the difference between this technology park. Most part of these studies, they monitoring the number of companies, job, the financial indicators, the innovation indicators, and sometimes they do not consider this heterogeneity and the difference of the locations, investments, and the legal mode of this technology park. So in our study, we are very concerned about that, because we cannot shame the reputation of the technology park. Sometimes we can see that. So we can go on. I'm going to and in this context, there are 3 years we have developed with the Minister of Science, Technology, Innovation in Brazil. I studied to monitoring and evaluate evolution of the technology parks in Brazil, considering the boundary condition and success factor. In function of this interest, we have developed a system, a platform that we call here Innovadata, MCTI Innovadata BR, where we can see the major indicators of these technology parks, where they can answer a survey year about a lot of questions, and the survey instruments, they were made considering these boundary conditions and success factors. So we can go. In this platform, we can the public, the general public, can see anytime. You can move one, Chiara, more one, please, because I have only 10 minutes. So the general public in general, the general public can see who are the technology park in Brazil in operation, in planning, in implementation. They can see the numbers of the companies in the technology parks. They can see the major indicators as budget, revenues, tax, and jobs. And you can go. You can see also the companies, park by park and company by company. And the companies by city, the companies by technology park. That's for the general public. So what I had to say. So you can move. But what's more important for us in this platform in our studies, it's the indicators over the time. So the major one, you can go, Chiara. Chiara, are you hearing me? My internet is not so good. I'm in a hotel in Brasilia. Sorry about that, but let's go. The other, you move to.
One more?
No, the last one.
One left?
Before
Sorry.
that.
Okay. This one.
No, the last one. Let me, because I suppose there is a delay when you pass, and that one. Let's go. So here we have the evolution of the numbers of, no, you moved. The last one. That's not.
Wait, let's see. This one. Results. Evolution
the
in Brazil.
evolution, yes, and the United States. So yeah, that's it. Thank you. And so here we have the evolution of the numbers of technology in Brazil in 20 years. And we can see a S-shaped curve. That's a similar curve for adoption of an innovation. In the same way, it's the same curve that we have in the evolution, the technology park in the United States. And so the dissemination of the technology park, it's adoption of the innovation. In the same way, the number of the companies in that technology park. It's so to understand the importance of the time in that curve. And the difference, maybe it's 40 years, because the first technology park in the United States is 1940, and in Brazil into the decade 90 and 2000. but we have the same way. And what is important here? The most part of the technology park in Brazil, they are very young. They are very young. Only 25% of this technology park, they are more than 19 years. And the maturity of the park, the age of the park, it's very important. We cannot say anything about a park before 15, 20 years. It's an enterprise of a long term. So, and the most part of 50% of the parks in Brazil, they are less than 9 years in operation. So we can go. And this park, they are by all the country. We have park in southwest, north, and southwest. We can see that we have more park in southwest and south. That's very natural because these regions are the more developed regions in Brazil, and where are the regions where we have more universities. That it's a success factor important to the technology park, the strong scientific and base. So you can see that the north, for example, in the northwest, we don't have a lot of parks there, but we have someone that are in the planning and implementation stage. We can go on. So in the next slide, we have the evolution of the companies in the technology parks. So sorry, in this we have the indicators, the major indicators. The revenue is about 4 billion reais. The change is not so good for us at this moment. Maybe that means about $1 billion by the tenants in this technology park. It's a lot of money in Brazil. And the most important indicators for me, it's about the jobs. So we have about 4,000 jobs in this tenants company, the technology park. That's very important because we have a study of the National Science Foundation in the United States that says that for one quality job, we can create another 3 jobs. So that demonstrates the importance of the technology park as an instrument of economic and social development for the country. So we can go to the next. In the next slide, we can see the evolution of the tenants companies in this technology park. As the same way with the evolution of the science park, it's a S-shaped curve. So the decision of a company to go to a technology park, it's as the same adoption innovation. It's a decision of adoption innovation, and we have an inflection point. And this inflection point, it's about 15 to 20 years. This curve for all the companies in Brazil, it's the same way for the others technology park. We can see in the same slide, the same curve, but for the Research Triangle Park, one of the oldest park in the United States and maybe the major park in the United States. We have the same way. And here we have 2 points that it's important to say. The importance of the anchor company for this ignition point, for this inflection point. So in the case of the Research Triangle Park, we can see the IBM and the decision of the Department of Health and Education installed in the RTP, the National Environment Health Center. And we have a second point of inflection in this curve with the decision of the Triangle University to install a center in the Research Triangle Park. We have there 3 important universities, North Carolina University, University of North Carolina, and Duke University. So when they have the decision to put this center there, we have another ignition point in the number of the companies in this technology park. So what you can see about the Brazil, né? 70% of the tenants they are in 30% of the technology park because the park they are young and they are small. So the importance of the anchor, it's very important to leverage the technology park. You can go on. I'm not sure it's the next slide. Yes. So here we have the total investment in the Science Technology Park in Brazil. It's about 4 billion reais. This means $1 billion maybe. And so we can see that what Etcovitz calls the fallacy of innovation. this money is not enough for we have great results about or from the technology parks. Despite that, our technology park, they are moving on, but it's clear that we need more money to establish and go fast in this over the time. The most part of this money, they are public money, about 50–60% are public money. So that's the importance to monitoring and assess the performance of technology parks in Brazil. We can go on. And the other results from this study, it's about the importance of the real estate for the financial and the sustainability of the park. So the real estate, it's very important for, it's about 40% of the revenue of these technology parks to maintain their activity. The major expenditure of the technology park are about with the team. It's very expensive to sustain and to maintain a managed team. So it's about 40% of the costs of the technology park. And part of this expenditure, it's covered by the real estate. So the real estate, it's really important. We can go on. And the other result that it's very important, it's about the governance of the tech parks in Brazil. The most part of them, 50%, they are in the land which belongs or the university or the government. And about half of them, they are located in a university. And the legal nature of the technology parks in Brazil, they demand a council. In this council, we have no these councils that which is responsible for the management of this tech park in Brazil. We have the presence of the universities, the companies, and the government. So, like a triple helix model, that's very important because it's a complex enterprise which we need the vision of the three important actors of this triple helix model. We can go. And for the last one, the last but not least, we have in our parks in Brazil, they have a lot of services and programs. So the most part of the parks, despite they are young, small, and the financial difficulties, they offer to their companies services as interaction with universities, networking, advices, consultancies. We have programs with incubations. It's very important, the incubations programs to the park, because the question is, who is going to this tech park? We need to create new companies to go the major of this technology park. So we can see that 85% of the technology parks, they have incubations programs in Brazil. So the conclusions about this study, or the major conclusion, is that the technology parks in Brazil, they have relevant challenges, especially about the finances and the support. The policies also, we need the maker policies to sustain this policy over the time. So change the government and change the policies, that's not good for the technology parks, because they are enterprises to a long term. We conclude that the technology park in Brazil, they are really agile. Why? Because they are young, so the most part of them are small. So in 15–20 years, when all these technology parks become a matured parks, this is going to have a great impact in the economic development in Brazil. It's what we suppose. So what we hope to see that from 15–20 years, it's a long term. So the acknowledgement, I would like to say thanks for this opportunity, and thanks to the Minister of Science and Technology Innovation in Brazil to the financial support of this study. It's very important to be careful with the studies, because we cannot compromise the park's reputation. So to finish, success or failure, it's something very relative, and we need to see the perspective of long time when we talk about the technology park. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you very much for this comprehensive overview about the technology parks in Brazil. I took notes about a few sentences, and I will give the floor to my colleague Luca Maini in a couple of minutes. And I see there are some interesting points for discussion between, let's say, the two of you, because Luca is going to present about the EBN recent study, the EU BIC Impact Study 2020, that is presenting indeed the incubation ecosystem in Europe. I let Luca tell you more about this study and also about EBN. So Luca is indeed a colleague of mine at EBN, is our quality and research officer, and is coordinating all the activities of the EBN quality system, including indeed the management of the EUBIC certification. I'm sure he will tell you about it in a while, and is also, of course, responsible for the production of the annual EUBIC Impact and Activity Report. Again, as you can see here, basically the core of his talk today. But before I give him the floor, let me run our second round of questions, this time indeed focusing on the European context. So are you ready? We start with the first poll about Europe, the European ecosystem. So what was the survival rate of companies after 1 year of support by EU BICs, meaning incubators, business support organizations in 2019? So how many of these companies were still there after 1 year? 98%, 94%, 83%, or 75%? I give you 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and I close the poll. Most of you say 83%, and then so 36% of the audience said 83, and then 27, 1/4 of the audience said 94%. Luca will tell us which was the right answer. Second poll about the European ecosystem. Are you ready? Via. What is the core support service provided by EU BICs in 2019? Proof of business, access to capital, access to markets, all of the above. I give you 3 more seconds. And I close the poll with almost 50% of the audience saying that all of the above is the right answer, followed by access to capital, by 27% of the attendees, and then 13% of the audience is saying proof of business, and other 13% access to markets. So I now let Luca tell us which are the right answers.
Thank you, Chiara. I'll try to share my screen with you. Let me know if you can see the presentation.
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Thank you, Chiara, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present you the results of the EU BIC Impact and Activity Study 2020, give you an overview of EBN as well, and tell you more about the EU BIC certification. Can you see the slide changing? Or yes, should work, right? Yes.
Yes.
Before diving into the study, I would like, as I mentioned, to introduce you the European Business Support Business and Innovation Center Network. EBN is a not-for-profit organization that serves as a pan-European global community of people that use innovative business as a driver for regional economic developments. EBN's initiatives include the EUBIC certification, as mentioned by Chiara, the facilitation and the initiation of project collaboration, global networking, and advocacy for business support organizations like the EU BICs. There are now more than 25,000 companies that receive support by our members, benefiting from expertise and programs that are critical to their growth. The network can count on more than 650 experts working for more than 175 members operating in 29 countries, more or less. There is yet one official EUBIC label, which is uniquely granted by EBN to mission-aligned organizations that provide high standard business support services. Since 1984, the EUBIC label is the only certification for business support organization recognized by the European Commission, and EBN uniquely licenses these organizations that stimulate entrepreneurial innovation ecosystems, and they promote economic development and well-being in European regions. Becoming an EUBIC means responding to our mission to use business and innovation as a force of regional development. So, in other words, becoming an EUBIC means taking real steps to ensure that their services are the best advantageous to their clients and finally, ultimately, to the regions. As EBN, when it comes to research, the network can count on a long-lasting experience in assessing the operation of business support organizations in Europe, mostly. And we can count also on a consolidated method of research applied to the world of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Every year, we publish a study on impact services and the activities of the business support organization that we group as a network. They're mostly based in Europe, but there are also other organizations that go beyond Europe worldwide. This report is the EUBIC Impact and Activity Study. And why do we do that? Well, there are several objectives. Surely, the first objective is to make sure that the certified organization keep meeting the label criteria. But these initiatives help us also to understand better how the EUBICs run their activities with a focus on their impact and their governance. From the analysis of the data, we are able to benchmark their performance against other peer organizations, but also to detect trends in the ecosystem. And the study that I'm going to present now presents the key outcomes of the annual survey that we conduct among the 117 quality certified organizations that are labeled EUBIC. The data collection was conducted during the first semester of 2020, and the figures reported refer to the activities that took place in 2019. Now, let's have a look at some of the key results of the study. Well, firstly, I'd like to give some insights on the governance of the EUBIC centers, specifically analyzing their business model, having a look at the financial, human resource indicators, while also trying to understand how they are embedded in their regional ecosystem, what kind of strategic partnership they have in place. Well, EUBICs rely on a network of strong strategic alliances in their local, regional, and national area, such as universities, chambers of commerce, development agencies, corporates, investors, public authorities, in order to form a collaborative and connected ecosystem. Per se, EBN is a diverse ecosystem. You can see business incubators, development agency, innovation centers, science and technology park. These are different innovation support actors that have one thing in common for EBN. EUBICs conduct their operations in a manner that delivers the highest quality support services as possible. This is the first criterion that we use when we assess their operations. The majority of these organizations, of certified organizations, around 82%, remain not-for-profit organizations. This is interesting and linked to the financing models of the EUBIC centers, which we are, you see the tables here. You see an evolution concerning the revenue streams over the last 3 years, which shows a steady increase in the average share of funding comes from the EU sources. Overall, public funding remains fundamental for our certified business support organization and covers on average approximately 70% of the total funding of the EUBICs. Yet, I think that it has to be said that source of income varies greatly across different categories of EUBICs. We can take into account, for example, the business incubators, which have a higher private funding share compared to, for example, the government organization. The other graph shows the operational budget for the respondents across the last 3 years, and you can see that in median terms is around 1 million euro. Looking at the human resources indicators, we can see that the median values for the full-time employees of support staff remain stable over the last 3 years, and around 6 full-time employees per organization. I think that the output indicators in this case are interesting. There is a clear increase over the period 2017-2019 in the median values of the businesses supported, and however, this is followed by an increase in the ratio of business supported per FTE. In 2019, more specifically, across all EU BICs, a support staff member has helped around 16 companies. This is significantly higher than previous years, but not by all means a positive result. This means that, for example, more companies are supported by 1 full-time employee, and therefore the quality, let's say, of the support services are not as good as it could have been with more staff supporting the companies. In 2019, when we look at the business support services provided by business support organization, the EU BICs are actively supported around 21,000 companies. The survival rates of the company supported is one of the most outstanding results. And I have to say that the outcome of the poll was wrong. 83% is the EU average, according to the Eurostat statistics. In 2019, 94% of the supported companies survived the first year while being actively supported by the EU BICs. This rate decreases a little bit when we take into account the percentage of businesses supported after 3 years. Anyway, the average survival rate of companies actively supported is over 93% during the period 2017-2019. Another statistic which is interesting, I believe, is that in 2019, 45% of the certified organization provided virtual incubation services, and this statistic has probably changed nowadays, given the current circumstances. Much more they shift to virtual delivery to modify their programs, the way they deliver their programs according to the COVID-19 situation. Very briefly on to the services provided. The EU BICs show the capacity to cover and deliver high quality business support services for the needs of entrepreneurs at any stage of the development of the companies, covering the whole spectrum of the EU BIC services value chain. The EU BIC services value chain consists of the stimulation programs, lead generation activities, which are aimed, let's say, at raising entrepreneurial awareness in the local catchment area. And they move to pre-incubation services, the selection services, incubation services, up until scaling services, which are activities that are aimed to enhance and boost small businesses on the international playing field. In the figures here, you can see that during the pre-seed stage of their path, entrepreneurs were mainly supported via proof of business services and access to finance services. At startup stage, companies, let's say, were helped with access to finance services and access to markets, whilst EU BICs helped companies grow and scale by providing access to funding and market services. So you were right, EU BICs normally tend to, let's say, tick all the boxes when it comes to the core services they do provide them. And at the same time, most of the EU BICs can source knowledge internally without the need to hire external consultants. Yet in 2019, EU BICs have called on external consultants for their competencies in legal services, for example. 76% of them did, intellectual property and design and product development. I think I still have 5 minutes. Chiara, correct me if I'm wrong. Having a look at the regional economic development that EU BICs have in the local catchment area. As a network from its origins, EBN endeavored to build strong innovation networks that support the economic development of European region. Therefore, the certified business support organization play a relevant role in stimulating entrepreneurial activities in their area. When it comes to job creation, over 4,300 companies supported by EU BICs created around 20,000 jobs. And I think it's interesting to analyze the value for money indicators here concerning job creation and company supported. I think that the analysis showed the variance between public and private financial contribution, and on average, public resources accounted for around 70% of the total contribution per job created and per company supported, sorry. Therefore, demonstrating the high impact that the EU BICs have on the regional economic development. Also, if you take into account the entrepreneurship stimulation services, there's been a steady increase in the events organized, hosted, and participant reached during the last 3 years. EU BICs have a role as well in raising finances for the companies they support. And our community support around 5,200 companies with access to finance. The amount that you see there, 600 million euro, is the total amount raised by our community. And you can see that the capital invested by private investors is 3 times higher than the one provided by public funding scheme. This is, however, this needs to be contextualized a little bit. The graph, the figures that you see there, shows that venture capital firms were the largest providers of capital when it came to providing finance to supported companies. However, when looking at the number of companies financed rather than the amount raised, the picture shows a different ranking, where companies financed through public EU and non-EU funding schemes amounted for more than 50% of the total share. This confirms that venture capital firms backed a surprisingly low number of businesses in 2019, around 4% of the total share, confirming that their selective approach towards financing startups and scale-ups. Lastly, I would like to touch upon the role of the EU BICs to help companies scale up. Around 5,000 companies were supported with access to international markets. 20% of them worked on health and pharmaceutical sector. 22% of them work on transport and mobility. We see that the desired international markets remains naturally the EU, being a European network, but there is an interest in other markets, namely the American markets, South American markets as well, and Asia. EBN as a network is always happy to support and facilitate our members, their client companies in their international expansions. We do that through an international support scheme and through participation in international projects. That's the EU BIC Impact and Activity Study 2020 in a nutshell. Of course, if you like to get more information, you can contact me or go on to the EBN website. At the same time, I'd like to stress the high impact that the EU BIC, the certified business support organization, do have on their regional catchment area by creating jobs, by fostering economic well-being, and by building entrepreneurial ecosystems as well within their local regional ecosystem. I would like to invite you, just to conclude my presentation, to the EBN Congress, which is going to take place virtually online in a month and a half. And I would like to thank Chiara to give me the opportunity again to present the results of the study. And thank you for your attention. I think, Chiara, you're muted.
Good. Thank you. I was thanking you for your inputs about the European ecosystem. And I think that little by little, we see that, yes, of course, there are some differences, but there are also some common aspects between the different ecosystems. I would remind you all online to register and share comments and questions on the chat box available on this platform. We'll run the Q&A at the very end. So we now continue with the next ecosystem, the one from of Costa Rica, and therefore a new speaker on stage, Carola Medina. So she's a director of innovation at the Ministry of Science, Technology and Telecommunications of Costa Rica. And EBN, together with INBIA and Innovos Group, is currently implementing the International Mentoring Unit to promote the development of new tech-based companies in Costa Rica. So that's why there is this connection with this ecosystem. Funded by the Inter-American Development Bank, the objective of this program is to accompany Costa Rican incubators in strengthening their capabilities, especially thanks to these international connections. So I let Carola Medina tell you more about the program and mainly about the incubation and innovation ecosystem in Costa Rica. But as you already know, before giving her the floor, I would launch our next batch of polls. So few questions to see how much do we know about the Costa Rican ecosystem. Are you ready? We start with the first poll about Costa Rica. So what are Costa Rica's main business activities? Is it? Okay. Agriculture, tourism, food, products and textiles, agriculture, tourism, medical devices, low manufacturing, textiles, tourism, agriculture and food products, and IT services, tourism, agriculture and medical devices. I give you 5 more seconds. I see that the audience is, no, now we are starting. Before you were focusing only on 2 options. Now I see that you are going for more than 2 options. So I close in 2, 1 now. So 36% of you said ITC services, tourism, agriculture, and medical devices. I will let then Carola tell us the right answer. Second question about the Costa Rican ecosystem is how many incubators hold Costa Rica's network of incubators and accelerators? 5, 10, 17, or 20? I give you 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and I close the poll. Most of you, so 40% of the participants said 20. Another question about the Costa Rican ecosystem is, does Costa Rica currently provide any public venture capital fund? Yes or no? What do you think? I give you 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and I close the poll with 73% of you saying yes. Last question about Costa Rica. How many research centers exist in Costa Rica? 54, 530, 110, 240. Give you 3 more seconds. I close the poll with a majority of you, 54%, saying 110. Good. Let's see what are the right answers together with Carola Medina. Let me share the screen now. And Carola, the floor is yours. is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chiara. I was mute. Okay, thank you for the introduction and well, good afternoon and good morning. It is a pleasure for me to have this opportunity to share with you about Costa Rica's innovation and incubation system. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, I think it's a little bit delayed. Okay, to start, I would like to share some facts first about Costa Rica so you can have a little bit of context of our country. Next. It has a delay, I think. Well, first, it is important to indicate that Costa Rica is today an upper middle income country. And a development success story. Costa Rica, as you may see, is a home to 5 million people and an active workforce that puts a great deal of emphasis on education. Our development has been the result of more than 30 years of openness to foreign investment, steady trade, liberalization, and access to public and mandatory education. Costa Rica's economy is currently largely dependent on tourism. Well, unfortunately, this has changed due to COVID, agriculture, IT, and medical devices export. Next, please. Well, it is important also that to remark that even when we just have 5 million inhabitants, it has not prevented our country from being at the forefront of innovation in Latin America. You may see according to the Global Innovation Index, we're the third most innovative country in Latin America. Also, according to the Global Entrepreneurship and Development Institute, Costa Rica ranks 6th in Latin America for entrepreneurial activity. Next, please. However, we still face, well, some challenges to put more emphasis on science and technology in Costa Rica. As you may see in this slide, according to the latest STI indicators, investment in R&D with respect to GDP reached 0.43% in 2017, and throughout the period of 2013 and 2017, it presented a maximum investment point in 2014 with 0.58%, and after that year, it has remained constant during the last 3 years. Next, please. This constant investment that Costa Rica has made in R&D with respect to GDP in recent years is still below the investment made by developing countries, and even below the average for Latin America and the Caribbean. That is why we are taking some steps forward to try to improve the capacities of our SDI system, and of course, the investment made by different actors of this SDI system. Next. Okay. Now that you have a vision about some data for Costa Rica, I would like to tell you more about the ecosystem of entrepreneurship and innovation in Costa Rica and about the program that Chiara mentioned that we are running with this international mentorship unit to improve the ecosystem. Next. Well, first let me explain that the national STI system of Costa Rica is composed of all public and private institutions, including higher education institutions, public implementation institutions, of course, the business sector, and supporting organizations, whose main activities are related to STI. The public policy-making process and coordination is a responsibility of the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Telecommunications, MISIT. MISIT coordinates with other ministries such as economy, education, health, agriculture, livestock, energy, environment, trade, etc. There are several public implementation agencies also. For example, CONICIT helps MICIT with the execution and evaluation and support R&D and innovation programs through non-refundable funds. But let's see the details of each of these actors. Next, please. Next, okay, there it is. Okay, first, of course, we recognize that entrepreneurs and their firms are the central players in our innovation system. The industry structure in Costa Rica is composed mainly of SMEs. 90% of firms are SMEs, but Costa Rica's business dynamics are still relatively low compared to other OECD countries. Our startup rate is less than 1%. According to GEM, more than 46,000 entrepreneurs discontinued their businesses between 2012 and 2014. That is the reason why we launched this program to work with an international mentorship unit. EBN is part of that. So they can help us to improve the capacities of some incubators with the purpose of improving also the capacities of entrepreneurs so that they can successfully stay and grow in the market. I will talk about that later. But it is important to mention that businesses in Costa Rica have developed across a variety of technological sectors, including agriculture, advanced manufacturing, life sciences, food products, and TICs. And actually, we're putting a lot of efforts in leveraging the bioeconomy sector because we believe that we have a comparative advantage on that sector. The great majority of domestic SMEs currently lack the innovative and startup capacities to access and adopt new technologies and knowledge, and so we are like doing some work with them also through different non-refundable funds. Next. Now, let me take a moment to explain the public business support ecosystem. And we are, as a country, trying to advance automation challenges. I would like to remark first four of the most important organizations. First, the Ministry of Economy, Industry and Trade, which is the one that has this steering role in improving framework conditions and implementing policies that sustain the development and enhance the competitiveness of SMEs and entrepreneurs. Aligned to this ministry are the Development Bank System and the National Training Agency. This Development Bank System is a second-tier bank composed of the main public financial institutions that are providing financial and non-financial services in Costa Rica. And it aims at fostering SMEs and entrepreneurship and competitiveness, and supporting innovation and research activities. On the other hand, we have the National Training Agency, which provides technical assistance to SMEs in support of skill upgrading, entrepreneurship, innovation, promotion, and productivity development. Through SDV funding, INA can execute a comprehensive incubation model for new companies and the promotion of new business models, both in traditional sectors and in innovative and disruptive areas, as well as the creation of added value of products and services. Lastly, we have the Costa Rican Foreign Trade Promoter, PROCOMER, which is the pillar of support for Costa Rican companies, especially SMEs, through their internationalization process to conquer, of course, international market. PROCOMER have recently created important programs such as call to strengthening the Costa Rican ecosystem of green technology startups for internationalization. This program is divided into incubation cycles of 12 weeks, each with 8 companies participating. But PROCOMER has also created other programs such as the Green Growth Program, Seed Stars, and have recently launched a public venture capital fund. So we have this organization working together to try to improve our ecosystem for entrepreneurship. Next, please. Okay, as you may see in this slide, there are many other organizations that provide support in the life cycle of companies, but I will not go into detail and next, but I want to emphasize in certain types of other organizations, for example, the higher education institutions. Next. Okay, yes, there we have. Currently, there are 5 public universities in Costa Rica and more than 50 private universities, a large number for a country of Costa Rica's size and population. It is important to mention that each public university have a transfer and links with the private sector office. Currently, there are more than 4,000 researchers registered in our national SDI information platform and more than 110 research centers, institutes, laboratories, experimental farm, and special units. The majority of these research centers in Costa Rica are concentrated in public universities, where the preponderance of the country's research activities is performed. Despite the well-functioning research center that we have and that undertake research activities and provide services to the business sector, there is still challenges to upgrade and increase the interaction between public universities and the business sector. That is why it was very interesting for me to know about this hub, the ENRICH in Brazil, because this is something that we may establish in Costa Rica. We're still in an emergence stage regarding the management of patents and licensing agreements, but universities are advanced in their policies and regulation in this sense. And next. Okay, there we have. Now let's see what our incubation ecosystem looks like. The Costa Rican Ministry of Economy, Industry and Commerce created years ago the National Network of Incubation and Acceleration. This network is currently composed of 17 incubators as part of this program, and this comes from the public and private sector and also from the Ministry of Education. As you can see in this slide, the network tried to articulate the elements that make up the incubation and acceleration process in the country. So we have incubators in all the stages: pre-incubation, incubation, and acceleration right now. The incubators and accelerators that are part of this network must register with the Ministry of Economy, follow an operation manuals of said organization, and submit reports. We have registered, as I mentioned, 17 incubators, but others that are not part of this network also are working in Costa Rica. Next. There is a delay, but it's okay. I want to mention that we recognize that our entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem face some challenges, especially in order to provide more and better services to entrepreneurs. We developed for this reason a pilot that I already mentioned through the Inter-American Development Bank, and through which for 12 months we seek to improve the capacity of these 5 incubators. And through certain programs for 17 incubators that are part of this network. We choose an international mentorship unit, and then we choose 5 incubators. First, we make a workshop for 17 incubators from this network, and then we open a call so that we can select 5 of the best incubators that could receive this support. This is how we choose these incubators that are reflected in the slide. This has been a very interesting process. It has been developed in 3 stages. First, we selected the best 5 incubators, as I mentioned. Then we open a call for entrepreneurs to the process that can start working with these incubators. So this program is a hands-on program. The International Mentorship Unit is currently providing support to these entrepreneurs and the incubators for up to 1 year. This through workshop, but also personalized support. Each entrepreneur compromises itself with an annual plan, and the mentoring unit provides a mentor for each of these entrepreneurs and a mentor for each incubator. The third stage of this program is a kind of soft planting process. With the help of this international unit and the incubators, we already selected 13 startups that are ready for a soft landing. So in the coming months, we will be sending those startups to a short stay at the Global Acceleration Center. Let me say that through this process, we have identified different opportunities and challenges. For example, it has been observed that incubators stemming from public universities often receive their support in the forms of staff, facilities, and seed money. In that sense, services of some incubators remain free to the entrepreneurs. Some others have begun to experiment with a tier pricing model in which students are charged less than working professionals who can afford to pay for the services. So we are trying to help incubators through this program to start charging to their entrepreneurs so they can finance better. Also, a preliminary mapping of this program reflects a high concentration of these incubators within the great metropolitan area, which is, of course, a challenge. Also, it has also been a challenge for our incubators in the programs to deal with cultural aspects of our entrepreneurs who often do not have the time or the willingness for their entrepreneurship because they are dedicated to other activities. So we are working on that also. We believe this experience will for sure allow us to improve the capacities of our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. This program with the International Mentoring Unit seeks that the state of Costa Rica take this pilot and then scale it up, taking in account all the recommendations. Indeed, we must recognize that at this moment, all incubators are putting a great effort and are making a great achievement, as you may see in the slides. I want to tell some particularities of these 5 incubators, but I think that due to time it will not be possible, but in the presentation that we can share with you, you can learn more about them. Next. Okay. It's a little delayed. Can you hear me well? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Okay. Now, in addition to the challenges on which we have been working in terms of services to entrepreneurs, we have challenges in financing entrepreneurs, but the country is also taking important steps to improve it. As you may see in this slide, currently there is a funding gap in the ecosystem. Important steps have been taken to increase public funding for early stages, but equity finance is still scarce. For example, MISID funding targets innovation-based startups. Up to date, the most visible initiative, entrepreneurship, and small business funding is the SBD Fund. For the most part of the program under this development bank provides non-refundable seed capital in one way and flexible loans also that require collateral or fiduciary guarantees. We are not working with this bank to try to address through a specific funding the need, for example, of the biotech and software startups, hopefully for next year. MISID also have the PROPYME and PIM programs. PROPYME supports specific programs within startups as well as SMEs with a strong technological component. Both programs offer up to 80% of the project's requirements as non-refundable funding. Currently, we're working also with these 5 incubators, as I mentioned, provided through PIM funding, $10,000 per entrepreneurs for up to 50 entrepreneurs. 8,000 for prototyping and other requirements to start up the project, and $2,000 to refund the incubators for their support. At the same time, with this program, we are providing mentoring support with this international mentorship unit. We can also identify 4 public as well as private organizations that are providing seed capital. One is the University Agency for Entrepreneurship and Management, AUGE, Carao Ventures, Parquetec, and Capitales Rotativos, Ícaro. Among the conditions that this organization provides to the founders of startups are not requiring permanence in the market, not requesting warranties at all, or requesting less demanding warranties such as inventory, current assets, accounts receivable, and intellectual property. On the other hand, Costa Rica have virtually non-existent venture capital industry, and angel investors are still in its very early stages. There are also a few investment clubs or accelerators such as Carao Ventures, which have helped bridge the gap. One example of the FINE incubator that is part of the BRIM program that is opening other possibilities of financing startups is Parquetec, which has an Invertab portfolio. They currently manage 7 startups for a value of $2.3 million, being the only accelerator in Latin America to list their fund in a regulated capital market on a national stock exchange. So the main challenge that we have right now in our ecosystem is the insufficient pool of firms at the expansion stages of development. That is why this program that we have with EBN is so important for our country, because we need to increase that pool of firms so this financial market will be more interesting. Next, please.
Carola, you have 3 minutes.
Finalize. Okay, perfect. Regarding seed capital, as mentioned before, currently the SBD offers seed capital to accredited financial operators. Incubators such as AUGE offer seed money for prototyping, startup, and scale up. And accelerators such as Carao Ventures provide accepted startups with pre-seed or seed capital, usually through convertible preferred stock. Next. And finally, regarding public venture capital fund, last year the first public venture capital fund was launched in a consortium between SBD and Procomer. This can be accessed by small and medium-sized goods and services companies in the consolidation phase that requires support for the development of expert projects. The pilot program is provided $500,000 by this second-tier bank, while Procomer support consistent of reviewing and selecting companies in conjunction with other actors in the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. Well, this next was the information that I wanted to share with you. Hopefully you have learned a little bit about Costa Rica's innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems. Thanks again for the invitation.
Comprehensive presentation about the ecosystem in innovation, entrepreneurial ecosystem in Costa Rica. I would now move to the next ecosystem, that is the one from the United States, and more specifically, we are going to listen about the Santa Fe Business Incubator and the international opportunities linked to it. Presenting these opportunities is Marie Lancer, who's president and CEO of the Santa Fe Business Incubator. And indeed, she I'm very happy she's with us today. She's recognized leader in business incubation and entrepreneurial development. She served 6 years on the board and as chair of the International Business Innovation Association, INBIA, the one you heard also during Carola's presentation. An association that counts more than 2,000 members in 50 countries. And indeed, she will tell us about the business incubation and economic development in New Mexico. But again, as for the previous ecosystems, before giving the floor to Marie, I will launch a few polls about the American ecosystem. So, first question, are you ready to answer 3 more polls? According to a new study, where is the healthiest county in the United States located? You have counties in New Mexico, Minnesota, Colorado, and Florida. Give you 3 more seconds. And I must say that I closed the poll now, and the audience is 40% in Minnesota and 40% on Colorado, I mean Carver County and Douglas County, and 20% Los Alamos County, New Mexico. Poll. 7 research laboratories across 50 United States. How many are in New Mexico? So 3, 2, 0, or 7? Okay, I see you are answering, so I give you 3 more seconds. 1, and I close it. So 60% of you say 7 research centers, so research laboratories in New Mexico. Third and last question, it's which contemporary TV show, sorry, I'm launching it. Hola, okay. Which, oh, sorry. I closed this poll. Which contemporary TV show was not filmed in whole or in part in New Mexico? So the questions are Breaking Bad, Succession, Lone Mile, and Game of Thrones. But I'm sorry that I closed the poll and I can't go back and reopen it. I'm really sorry. Write your answer in the chat. Which one of these contemporary shows, TV shows, was not filmed in New Mexico? Feel free to write in the chat. I'm sorry, I didn't manage it properly. Sorry. Okay, I give the floor to Marie.
Hello. Don't know if you can hear me or if my slides are coming up, because I kind of lost Chiara.
Yeah, I think she might be disconnected.
She seems disconnected.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and I'm just, while you get my slides up, I'm just going to go ahead and start in the interest of time. So I was asked to give a perspective from a smaller community that is not one of the large metropolises on the coast that you would typically think of for technology commercialization and startups like San Francisco or Boston. But one of the communities in the center of the country and what a smaller community might be able to offer for incubators or people sending clients into an international situation in the United States for cross-border collaboration, or for a company or entrepreneur to consider. So what I'm going to cover is basically two things today. One is, what should you consider when thinking about a community that you might send a client to, or that you might go to yourself as a company? What are the questions you should ask and things you should look for? The other thing is to talk a little bit about what we have to offer in our ecosystem. And because of that, my slides are not many statistics. They're mostly pretty to show you some memorable images of what we have here. I know everyone I've talked to around the world has seen Breaking Bad, and they think, oh, that's what New Mexico is like. No, not all of New Mexico. It's very different. So when my slides are back, and I hope they come back soon, and we'll go on to the next one, we'll talk a little bit about I'll talk a little bit about the whole of the ecosystem, both the built environment and the natural environment, because it's important. Because our incubation program here and mine focus on three aspects. We call them programs, things that will help people and help their companies. Place, where are you? What assets, what resources, what specialty, if facilities and infrastructure are available to the company, and people. What is the network? What are the communications? Shara, if you can go through to the next slide quickly, if that's possible. If not, I'm just going to keep going. Yeah, so Southwest United States in Santa Fe is a place of, we talked a little bit about geography. It's a place of very deep history. The oldest residence in the entire country is in Santa Fe. And there's a good mix of cultures here, Native American, Hispanic, Anglo, that have all come together here historically since before this was a country. So we've been looking at ways to develop our economy and have had challenges. And if you'll go back to that one just before, we've had challenges that we need to address in these smaller communities particularly, and the one after this, please. And those will be things like access to capital. And let's go to the next slide, please. So it's a smaller community is often engaged in business incubation and cross-border collaboration to diversify their economy. Ours in Santa Fe was traditionally built on tourism and government work. We're the state capital, but the incubator that we have was started 22 years ago in order to diversify our economy. We've dealt with putting together resources for capital, resources for specialty, facilities and infrastructure. And with the internet, our distance to markets from smaller communities is shrunk. A company can work anywhere in the world now. And the other thing we're seeing is a shift in the workforce. Yes, let's look at this one for a moment, please. Because I just saw a statistic, 1 in every 5 Americans, that's 20%, are either not living in their home right now, they're living somewhere else, or they're moving. It's difficult to rent a moving truck here right now because people are leaving large cities to go to smaller communities. People are shifting to go to see family. Some of this has to do with the economy. A lot of it has to do with the pandemic, but we're seeing a lot of shifts. And so access to workforce and executive leadership and so forth is shifting. And Santa Fe has always been a place that attracted leaders of companies. We have a lot of leaders of Fortune 100 companies. So we're addressing workforce, equity capital, broadband, and tech commercialization. And let's go on to the next one, please. Our industries that we've developed here are based on things coming out of our national labs and universities. And the next slide will have some of our industry sectors mentioned on it. Medical devices, pharmaceuticals, IT and software, aerospace, the film and digital media, advanced manufacturing. These are all things mainly coming out of our research universities and national labs. And if you can go, there you go. So these are outdoor recreation, agriculture, innovation, and then green building and renewable energy. I would say IT and software, biotech, energy, aerospace, and digital media, cybersecurity are our top industry sectors. Let's go on to the next slide, please, Shara. Thank you. I'd like to talk a little bit now about our business incubator, which was established 22 years ago, and we have a nice picture coming up of the front of it. Our business incubator is a mixed-use incubator. We deal with companies from a lot of different industry sectors, and we have a really nice broad group of mentors and business experts, over 60 business mentors and experts that we have that have volunteered from our community. That's our building right there. We focus on entrepreneurship. We don't just bring an entrepreneur in and put them in an office. And I think when you're thinking about an international program, it's very, very important what the incubator, what the program offers. Are they going to really help the company? Are they going to introduce them to people? Do they have the resources and the infrastructure that they need? Our incubator also partners with others throughout the state of New Mexico. There are 6 certified business incubators in the state that we work closely with. And we work with the regional organization, the Rocky Mountain region, which stretches from Arizona to Colorado to Wyoming to Utah and Western Texas. So we have a lot of resources and other incubators we can partner with and draw from. When I started this conversation about this presentation, I talked to a colleague in Phoenix and one up in Indiana who are working on international programs and cross-border programs. And we all agreed that should we get a client or a question for something that the company could do better somewhere else, we would refer the company to where they could do the best. Because that's what's most important in entrepreneurship, is where can you really thrive. In our community, we're very lucky to have 3, answer to your question, national laboratories in New Mexico. Of the 17, it's unusual. We're I believe the only state with 3, unless California might also. And we have 3 research universities, so a lot of intellectual property, a lot of licensing of commercialization and technology are coming out of those resources. And the next slide, please. The next slide will be a picture of our biolab. We, about 2 years ago, installed a $1.5 million shared biotechnology laboratory, fully outfitted. So anyone working on life sciences can use that as a resource, and they don't have to come up with that kind of large investment to build that themselves. So this laboratory will accommodate eight benches and 8 company representatives at the same time. We have other specialty labs. We have a fab lab, a digital fabrication lab, and in fact, the head of programs for fab labs in North America is a woman who has an office in our incubator. We're very lucky she moved to Santa Fe, and so we can connect people with fab labs throughout the entire United States. And we recently got a grant to build a virtual reality lab. So we hope to have that installed at the end of the year, a VR lab for companies working in virtual reality. And we'll go on to the next slide, please. So the next slide is one where I want to talk about people and partnerships. It's really important. The size of a big business incubator's network, how many other agencies, departments, sources of capital, sources of licenses, sources of IP, other economic development service organizations do they partner with that then become part of the network and part of the ecosystem that any client or partner can get into and be referred to? Because we have a very small staff. We have a beautiful 30,000 square foot incubator run by 3 people and some part-time help. But we have hundreds of people in our ecosystem that we can call on to help us and help our companies. And we've been doing that for 22 years. I talked a little bit about council advisors. We have a new angel group of investors starting up. We have a lot of private investors in our community and some state programs to co-invest in companies in second stage. The important thing that I want to get across today, to choose a smaller community to go into as a young company or as a company landing from somewhere else, you're a bigger fish in a smaller pond. If you land in San Francisco, you're one of many. If you land in a smaller community, the smaller community, you can meet the heads of the tech commercialization offices, you can meet the heads of the departments of state, you can meet the mayors, you can meet the investors. If your program is one that is active in making introductions and helping people connect. And that's what's really important, is that the program helps people connect. Because regardless of how we're doing things remotely, regardless of whatever changes in the world, business and trust are built on relationships and connections. And a company coming to a new place and sitting in an office, there's not going to help them at all unless there are ways and programs to help them make connections. And so that's very, very important. With that, I know I'm running through this really fast, but I wanted to make sure I didn't go over time. So we'll go on to the next slide. One of the things I wanted to mention in our community to stick in your mind, to be memorable, is that it's really beautiful. And Albuquerque, what you may have seen there, it has gorgeous mountain behind it. It has the desert. Santa Fe is up in the mountains. It's the highest level state capital in the country, not Denver, Santa Fe. And we have skiing and hiking trails and biking trails, and we have wind and solar, and energy companies are moving here to take advantage of the natural environment. We also have some of the clearest skies, and we have a beautiful international spaceport that Virgin Airlines is launching space travel out of in the center of the state, that's based on our aerospace industry. So the place is just as important, I believe, as people and programs and everything else. Being in a place where you have facilities and resources in the people-built world, like our specialty labs, but also a place that supports the goals of the individuals and the goals of the companies and supports them. We've found also, by talking about the environment, by talking about the place we live, that it helps attract workforce, it helps attract people and retain them here because they like being here. It may be a little harder to be in a smaller community and farther away from the big cities, but it also gives something that allows people to enjoy their work. And the healthiest county, I was surprised. Many of you got this wrong. I got it wrong. I thought it was Colorado. It used to be, but it is now Los Alamos, New Mexico, which is 40 minutes up the hill from here. And healthiest being the people are healthy, the environment is healthy, the air is healthy, and there's a lot to do for people in the way of exercise and outdoors. So we now boast that as well. And let's go on to the next slide, please. We have a very rich history here of being a place of crossroads, a place where before this was even a country, people came to trade and to make things happen. And I think that history informs what's happening today. A lot of people from the State Department of the United States have retired or moved here. We have many ambassadors from other countries who've moved here. We have a very rich and active Council of International Relations, which is a US State Department program to welcome visitors from other countries about once every 6 or 8 weeks. Before the COVID, we had people coming from different communities and countries around the world to visit us. That happens to be a picture of one of our advisors, a couple of staff members, and the General Counsel of the Netherlands standing in front of our incubator. One of the first groups we ever welcomed were members of the Parliament of Belgium. And I got to meet a lot of the members of the Parliament of Belgium. We've had visitors from all over the world. And we're proud of that for a community of only 100,000 people. That we have been able to have these connections globally. And so we're very interested in working with our partners and working with our incubators around the state to welcome more people. And of course, that's not going to happen until the pandemic is passed, but we can start now thinking about identifying companies, identifying places for them to go, and building the relationships virtually that will then eventually lead to in-person visits and so forth. And I'm looking forward to that day. I don't advise anybody come right now, even if you could, but it won't be long before we'll be able to welcome people again. And in the meantime, we have these kinds of tools to let us communicate and set up programs to not only help bring in and attract entrepreneurs, but to help our companies and our entrepreneurs find connections around the world so that they too can go out and find new markets and meet new potential partners. I think it's really important. We'll go to the next slide. I had a question. Now, I put in a fun question about TV shows because I was told to make this fun, so I hope it is. So on the next slide, what you'll see is a TV show being filmed in front of my office in our incubator that it was done on and off for about 2 years. That is the film crew of a show, a Western show called Longmire. And Longmire was about a Montana sheriff who solved crimes. My office is right back there behind that picture. And it was great fun to support the film industry here in New Mexico by being part of this filming. So the answer to your question, yes, part of Succession, believe it or not, was filmed in New Mexico. All of Longmire was filmed in New Mexico. The one, Breaking Bad, as everyone knows, was filmed in New Mexico. The one that wasn't, surprisingly enough, is Game of Thrones. And the reason it's surprising is the author, George R. Martin, lives right over there, I'd say about, I could throw a rock at his house from here. He lives here, he grew up here, and he's very involved in the community, but not anything from Game of Thrones was filmed in New Mexico. So that's your fun fact for the day. We'll go on to the next slide. And the next slide is just one more reminder that it's pretty here. But I want you to remember, not only is it pretty, but there are good programs in smaller communities if you seek them out. EBN and NBIA can help you with those. And when we get to the next slide, you'll be able to kind of take a deep breath around what we see and get to see every day here in Santa Fe. But finding those places that have the right people, the right programs, the right resources in place can really help a young company to thrive and grow and survive. And we hope that places around the world and entrepreneurs around the world will consider looking at places like Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the suburbs of Phoenix and Santa Fe, New Mexico, as places that are excited about welcoming collaboration and that have the assets and the resources and the will to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you very much. Took note about your suggestions, and I really like your message about the small communities. So instead of going, so the first option for entrepreneurs is usually indeed the big city, the Silicon Valley, but probably is not the right place for everybody. And actually looking at smaller communities might be the right option for many of them. And as you were saying, provided the people, connections, the programs and the spaces are there. Thanks a lot for your inputs and your also indeed suggestions and insights from the Santa Fe Business Incubator experience and programs. And now I would move to the last speech of our Info Day. Together with us at TBN in the ENRICH in Brazil program and project, there is also ISP, the International Association of Science Parks and Areas of Innovation, that is involved as project partner. And we have been working together in defining a bit the program of today, and also the service I was mentioning before, the peer-to-peer exchange between soft landing hubs and EBN and ISP members. Laura Monasterio is going to give us tell us about global perspectives of innovation ecosystems. So being a global association, she will comment upon some of the aspects we discussed today with our experts and speakers from their perspective. So again, before giving the floor to Laura, I will launch our last three polls. Sorry, the first one is this one. So, what do you think the main aim of an STP or AOI is? Science Technology Park or areas of innovation. So not many doubts. I close the poll in 2 seconds. 1 second. So 50% say contribute to the prosperity of its community, and the other two answers got 25% each. So we move to the second question. Do you think residential facilities are considered as one of the main elements for science technology parks or areas of innovation? Yes or no? I close the poll in 2, 1 second. So you all agree 100% the answers was yes. And last question is, what percentage of science technology parks or areas of innovation do include directors from other countries on their board of directors to increase indeed their internationalization activities? So less than 15%, around 50%, or between 70 and 80%. I close the poll in 3, 2, 1 seconds, and most of you, 70%, answered less than 15%. So I now give the floor to Laura to share with us these global perspectives and also to tell us the answers to. Laura is on mute. Let me see. Allora, Laura.
Laura, I think you're self-muted.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Now I think you can hear me,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Right.
so
Yes.
thank you, Chiara. Good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you are located. As Chiara mentioned before, my name is Laura Monasterio, Knowledge and Project Manager at ISP, the International Association of Science Parks and Areas of Innovation. And today I'm going to share the global perspectives of innovation ecosystems, and will explain more about their internationalization. Next slide. Okay, firstly, just to give some background about who we are, ISP started in 1984, so 30 years ago now. And since then, we have been growing exponentially, gathering science and technology parks, areas of innovation, innovation districts and hubs, and another type of knowledge-based incubation projects. Our 350 members are in 77 countries worldwide. So we really have a truly global network. Next slide. Okay, here you can see the extent of our network. The countries in blue, and we have many connections and links in addition to these. We are present, as you can see, in all continents. Next. Okay, this is important. Before continuing, I wanted to highlight who our core members are. Science parks and areas of innovation. On the screen, you have the full ISP definition of these entities. What both of these innovation ecosystems have in common is having a team especially tasked to manage these activities, focused on entrepreneurial actions, promoting the culture of innovation and knowledge-based businesses for the benefit of the regional economy. Talking about areas of innovation, one of the distinguishing features is their hybrid nature. So instead of being an isolated entity, they are often blended with the city itself, blurring the lines between business, citizens, academia, and the market. Next. Okay, in the following slides, I don't know if, okay, here, I will provide you with some data on our science parks and areas of innovation. I will show some of the latest statistics extracted from a report on our industry based on a survey that we carry out every 3 years amongst our network. In this case, we are extracting the data from the ISP General Survey carried out in 2018. Firstly, this graph shows that science parks and areas of innovation are no longer such a new phenomenon. STPs actually started in the 15th in the United States. But here we have the picture of our members with the oldest born in the 17th. However, it is clear that more and more have been created over the years, and in our memberships, the highest proportion of members were created in the 2000s. Next. This innovation ecosystem are not only growing in numbers around the world, but they have ongoing development and expansion. Our data shows that 80% of our members had embarked on either expansion or redesign activities. This underlines the success of science parks and areas of innovation, which at the same time reflects the success of the resident companies and the entrepreneurial communities. Next. And STPs and areas of innovation are mostly an urban phenomenon. A very small percentage of our members are not located in a city. The cities, the connections and the people are key for the day-to-day activity, but also for the development and growth. Next. Science parks and areas of innovation share a number of main elements, which include business incubator and research or technological institutes, as well as having connections with other university facilities. And for example, I would like to highlight that in this case, the leisure activities is also a priority. These are all different elements that makes them science parks and areas of innovation attracted for the knowledge workers to work and live. This is a very important issue. Next. Most of these organizations have a public ownership structure. But I would like to highlight here the significant growth in private investment, with around 40% of organizations owned by private institutions, and then also the private institutions involved in the 28% of parks and areas with mixed ownership. Next. Some organizations, science parks and areas of innovation, have a specific technology focus. And here we can see the main technology sectors present in our members around the world. ICT and communication is clearly leading sectors. Next. As I mentioned before, the incubators were one of the main elements of science parks and areas of innovation. But this doesn't mean that the managing team are always responsible for running these. As you can see in the slide, in some occasions they are run externally. But the most important here is to reinforce the idea that incubation is crucial for all type of innovation ecosystems. The creation of new technology-based firms and in here we see that almost 100% of our members carry out incubation activities, either because they have an incubator or because they have incubator programs or services. Next. So in terms of data regarding internationalization, one of the topics of this webinar today, so it is encouraging to see that 80% of the organizations responding to our survey monitor the internationalization of the resident companies. Internationalization may be measured by agreements being signed with entities in other countries, or even by having directors from other countries on the board of directors. You were right when you said that less than 50% of science parks and areas of innovation have external or international directors on their board. And this is one thing that we highly recommend to any organization to enrich their perspectives and activities. Continuing, next slide, please, Chiara. Continuing with this internationalization element, this is something that is of particular importance and relevance to us, to ISP as an international network. We have a specific software tool called the Strategic RAM, created by ISP, and this tool is used to help to identify the strategic model of a science park, either operational or in planning. And one of the main axes of this tool is based around whether organization is on a scale of domestic to international. And here we see that despite their interest in being international, it is often found that there is more of a focus on the domestic market. And this is something that is slowly changing, and more they are incorporating activities which take them closer to the international outlook. Next. Now the question is, what is this internationalization? Why it is so important? Well, it is not just for the science park and area of innovation as a single entity. It is for the resident companies and deals with helping them expand, broaden horizons and learn. And how these organizations can be done. It is not always a simple task, and different approaches are applied, including aiming to attract inward investment and thus create links with international companies, contacts, encouraging resident companies to spread their wings and expand globally. Next slide. Here we have a brief summary of some strategies that can be considered by STPs and areas of innovation who wish to internationalize. Of course, participation in international associations such as ISP, EBN, and ENRICH in Brazil is also key for this process, making valued and trusted connections and being part of a legitimate and high quality community of research technology-based organizations. This is really important. In terms of the companies, it is important that the management team of the communities play a key and an active role in supporting the company growth. Next. And finally, sometimes it is easier said than done, but a change of mindset is essential. Support your team, staff. Remember that you should have a budget allocated for these activities. Define your objectives and set some realistic goals. Lastly, you have to be prepared to throw away what you thought you had planned. Listen to others and be open to new people and new opportunities. Last. So thank you for your attention. I will be pleased to respond to your questions, if any.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks a lot for this global overview and also for sharing some specific recommendations and suggestions on how to rethink and launch internationalization strategies within organizations. So with Laura, we close the series of interventions of today. I don't see questions in the chat box. Do you have any question? If any, please write them down in the chat. I know that we are already a bit late, 10 minutes beyond the expected end of the webinar. So I think that today we heard about different ecosystems, but we had some common elements that we could find in all these all these speeches. The importance of partnerships, importance of the programs, indeed dedicated internationalization strategies. So I think that we have some very valuable inputs to think about, reconsider, and so if you have any question, any comment, please feel free to share them with me by email, and I will eventually revert them to our speakers. And before closing, so here you can find all my contact details. I would thank all the speakers, and I would not only thank, but also wish a wonderful birthday to Marie, because I know that it's your birthday today. So happy birthday, Marie, and thanks a lot for having started this important day with us today. So really, that's the closing of our session today. And again, thank you to everybody, to Adriana, to Carola, to Laura, Luca, and Marie. I will be sharing with you the slides and of course the recording of the session. I would ask the speakers if you have any closing remarks you would like to share with the audience before we close the event.
I'd just like to thank everybody, and I learned so much from all the speakers. I had to pause my video because of the internet, but I listened to everyone and I learned a lot, and thank you. It was a pleasure to be part of it.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you, Kara, for the invitation. It's been a pleasure to learn about all the great things that you all are doing in this area.
Yes, same.
Have a great day.
Okay, thank you to all also for the presentations, and I think it's a good opportunity that ENRICH in Brazil is offering us to show to the world the innovation ecosystems reality.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I'd like to stress this, that one thing that was common to all the presentation was the impact that the business support organization, be them incubators, science and technology parks, innovation centers, they have on the local regional catchment area. So thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to present the study, but also to listen to a very interesting presentation from the other speakers.
Okay, so we can close the session now. Again, thank you very much. Wish you a wonderful birthday, Marie, a wonderful day to all the other participants and speakers, and we'll be in touch. So speak and to you soon. See you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.